So back in the editing view here, let's go ahead and do the same thing for this. Now we could go in again and do quick event creation and transfer if we want. But we can also right click on this one that we already did and go to copy. Then go to this empty space here that we also want to do pretty much the same thing and do paste. So that just copies the event that we already made and puts another instance of it right here. So I'm going to double click this, and then we can actually go into the event editor here. So we can see this is event ID number 2. And there's a whole bunch of stuff going on here, but pretty much what this event does is it plays a sound effect, and you may have heard that, move 01. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. You can right click on this and go to edit, and we can do play, and you can hear the sound effect move 1. So if you didn't like that sound effect and you wanted something else, you could choose a different one, move 3. Maybe you like that one better. So you can play around with all that stuff. Some people don't even like having the sound effect at all, and in that case they can right click on it and just do delete, and that will delete it. I'm going to leave it for now. The main thing we want to go to though is this transfer player option. That's the main thing that we want to change. So we'll right click on here, we'll do edit, and again you can use the space bar once you're comfortable with everything in the keyboard shortcuts to quickly just jump right into the edit mode for this item. Now we want to do direct designation, and we'll click the button again. So the difference here, the reason we wanted to change this is that right now it's pointing us to this square, but we actually want it to point us to this square because we're one step down, so that way it's a little more I don't know, realistic, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and it's not the end of the world. You could have pointed it to this square and it would have been fine too, but I just like to be thorough like that. But in reality we actually want it to go one square ahead of that, and I'll show you why in a little bit. And then here's another option that says designation with variables, which we haven't learned about variables yet. We'll talk about those later. It says specifies the location determined by the variables. So that's a little more complicated, and you won't need to use that very often. You'll mostly be doing direct designation, where you show on the map where you want it to go. And again, direction retain. And here we have an option that we couldn't modify in the other one. And this is why you might want to do them manually yourself, or like what we did here, where you can copy existing ones, or you can just do quick event creation, transfer event, and then come back in and modify it. So, but you can change the fade. So you can change the fade to black, to white, or no fade at all. So we'll try none for this so you can see the difference. And we can see here it says fade none. It added that to that, and it has our new coordinates. So we'll just go ahead and do apply to apply the changes. And in here we have quite a bit going on, but we'll talk about most of this later. For now we'll just hit OK. Now let's go over to our map 2, and we'll do basically the same thing except the other direction. We want to make it so when the player walks here, they'll go back to this map. Alright, so again, we'll just do the same thing as before. Right click on the space where we want it, quick event creation, go to transfer. Now change the location by clicking, and we want this to go back to map 1. And we're going to show you, just for example, what happens when you do this, because this is not what you want to do. There'll be a problem with this, and we'll see it. But I'll just for an example, so we'll do it OK for that. And I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to choose copy again. And then we'll paste it right in here, because it does almost the same thing. It's just a quicker way to do it. You can do it either way you want. Go in here. I'm going to press the space bar to jump right to edit mode. Click that. And on this one, we're actually going to go one space ahead of where that event is. And we'll see the difference. And we'll make the fade none so you can see the difference of that too. And then we'll hit OK. Now we're going to play test it again. And when you play test it and you haven't saved, it says, do you want to save changes? So yes, you do. And now we're going to load everything up again. We've got a new game. Alright, so now we have two different events, and they're a little bit different. So this one on the bottom will work the correct way that you would expect it to, and it also has no fade, so pay attention to the screen and you'll see the difference with no fade. So we'll click here and see how there was no fade to black like we had the first time. It just went straight over. Some people prefer to do it that way. I like to do it situationally that way, but I generally just leave the fade to black in there. So if we did it correctly, we should click to the left here and it should take us back. Okay, there we go. Now, the reason why I said to make it go one square over instead of right back on top of it is because of this. So now look what happens with this other one where we put them both on the transfer right back on top of the event. If I click this, oh, it didn't do it. Oh wow, okay. Well, that's new. Well, in the older ones, it used to. That's good. That's good. They did that. Okay. So my mistake, but click there. So okay. Well, I'm remembering from the older RPG makers, and what would happen in the older ones is if you click that, instead of taking you like this, it would instead of stopping, as soon as you landed here from the transfer, it would transfer you immediately back to the previous one. It looks like for the newer ones they've taken that into consideration, so that's nice. So now I guess you don't have to worry about it that way. You can put it at either one. But if you're using one of the older RPG makers, you'll for sure want to make it one square ahead of your transfer event, because otherwise it will just go like this, and then it would go right back like this, and since we had it continuously pointing right back on the event, it would just be jumping back from screen to screen to screen to screen over and over, and you'd basically get stuck jumping like this back and forth from screen to screen, and it wouldn't work. So, but that's good to know. See, I learned something new. I've been using this software for years, and there's still tons of things I don't know about it. I'm obviously not the greatest RPG maker creator out there. I consider myself beginner to intermediate level of knowledge of it. So so that's our first look at some events here, and then we will continue in the next tutorial, and we'll keep looking at some more in-depth things that you can do. Thanks for watching.